Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Carla from Rehan Alawalla's World of Connections. And today I am talking again from the Ministry of English Literacy. We are going to be talking to Victor Irving Jenkins about communication and how important it is. And he is a rather good communicator. I've spent some time with him. Having said that, I want to remind you that this show is sponsored by the Institute of Peace, which is an online organization promoting peace around the world. Victor, can you please introduce yourself?
Of course, I am Victor Irving Jenkins. I'm in Sacramento, California. I'm originally from Charleston, South Carolina. Now I've been in California for the last 25, 30 years or so. I'm married, been a Toastmaster for about 20 years, and I have coined the term view attitudes because you know what? If you change your view, you can change your attitude. So if you have an attitude that's not serving you, change your view and you can have a different one.
How do you change your view?
Well, first of all, you have to know what your view is. Every one of us has what I describe as a world view. We look at things through a certain prism. It's difficult to be objective and it's difficult to have an unbiased opinion because actually everyone has a dog in every fight, even if that dog just is our desire to look good and be right. The way that you find out what your attitude is you look at the results that you have in your life and compare what you're getting in your life with what you expected to have gotten in your life. That'll tell you what your attitude is. My worldview shapes my attitude. My worldview, I look at things from a Christian prism. It's sort of like everyone has a pair of eyeglasses. Some of us have red eyeglasses. Some of us have blue eyeglasses, orange, yellow. We all have different colored eyeglasses on, and as a result, the thing that we describe as our objective world really doesn't exist because everybody has one of these eyeglasses on. It is only through a lot of soul searching and paying attention that you can find out what color your eyeglass is. And my eyeglass, the color of my eyeglass is I look at the world through a Christian perspective. And looking at the world through a Christian perspective, my number one goal is to walk in love, and my number two goal is to love my neighbor as I love myself.
Okay, so in doing that, what do you do when you face opposition?
When I face opposition, I count myself fortunate because facing opposition only means that I'm moving in a certain direction. The character of the opposition actually doesn't really make a whole lot of difference because the fact that I'm having opposition means I'm going in a certain direction. Then the person, the thing, whatever it is that's opposing you, that'll give you an idea as to what direction you are going in. For instance, if you get a lot of heartache, if you get a lot of criticism from people who are men, then you might consider that the direction that you're going in must be friendly to women, or the men wouldn't be arguing at you, something along those lines. It's not a clear-cut objective thing because, as I said, everyone has a dog in every fight. And just because a certain kind of opposition exists, it's really difficult to nail down specifically what direction you're going in. But whatever direction that you're going in, you're going to get some opposition because nobody is agreeing with anyone 100%, and everybody's going somewhere.
That's true. And where are you going these days?
I believe that the world that I live in actually is being created by me all the time. And I am creating my world by the sort of things that I allow on my mind most of the time. You see, that those eyeglasses that I just told you about, something is always happening and you're always looking at it, you're always examining it. Since I became a Christian and got focused on this whole idea of walking in love, I look for reasons, excuses to give everybody some love. And if you're looking for a reason to give everybody some love, whatever it is that you're looking for, you're going to find it. There's a verse in the Bible that says, "Seek and ye shall find." Another verse that says, "Knock and the door shall be open." While in and of itself, those verses might mean different things to different people, what it means to me is whatever it is that you are looking for, it is going to show up. And you can categorize what you're looking for by what your mindset is. You know people that every time you see them, they have a tale of woe. And you know other people that every time you see them, they have some tale about how great things are, or some victory that they're experiencing. All of these things are determined by what you keep on your mind all the time. There's a point of view that one of my pastors told me some time ago: what's in you will come out of you. And people who experience this thing that we now call triggering, if something triggers you, it's reacting to something that's actually inside you. So the thing that's triggering you, while you may not like it, while you may not appreciate it, if you didn't have a certain thing inside of you, that thing that's triggering you wouldn't trigger you.
Okay, let's get over to English and communication. Mindset is very, very important. Not only what we say to others, but what we say to ourselves. So can we begin thinking about what we speak to ourselves and how we can change it for it to be more positive?
There's this concept I use called spaced repetition. And spaced repetitions allow one to embody any characteristics that you want. Like, for instance, I am so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. I am so happy and grateful that I weigh the perfect weight. I am so happy and grateful that everything in my life is occurring as it ought to occur. So spaced repetition has a bigger impact on us or each other than it does on anything that someone can say to us. So human beings have been afflicted with this thing where they're never good enough. They always say things to themselves that make them unappealing. And they do this, I think, because of the history, starting from childhood, from being told a certain thing over and over and over. I often say that it is our subconscious mind that runs our life. And it is the fact that your subconscious mind only takes anything that's said to you over the period of your whole life, even sometime before you were born, the things that have been said to you over and over and over, your subconscious mind just believes all of it. And that's why it's so critical that you put some sort of a limit on the things that come into you, some sort of a limit on the things that you watch, some sort of a limit on the things that you hear, because your subconscious mind, as it hears it over and over and over, it'll believe it to be the case. And when you have a certain mindset or a certain worldview, things that people say to you actually will coincide. Say, for instance, the difference in people. A person like myself that weighs 280 pounds, someone calls me fat, I'm going to have a certain reaction. I'm going to feel a certain way. Somebody that weighs 120 pounds, somebody can call them fat. Well, they will have a completely different reaction. And the reaction belongs to the person that's having the reaction, not the person that's calling you fat. So while you might think that the person that's calling you fat is being rude, or the person that's calling you fat is not being flattering, the only reason that it acts with you like it does is because of what you already have inside of you.
Now, let's get to English and technology and teaching people mindset. Can we use technology to help people move from a negative mindset to a positive mindset, and using English as the language of choice only because it is the global language around the world.
Well, in order to enhance what happens to you, you have to, number one, believe that English is the preferred language. You have to believe that. So much of what we experience in our life depends on our belief, because what you believe is really going to determine the life that you live. I happen to believe English is superior, actually, for a number of reasons. I just recently listened to this book for the third or fourth time by Malcolm Gladwell called Outliers. The book does a study on some difficulties that was happening in the airline industry. And strangely enough, airplane crashes, what they were studying, even though it's a complicated process, most of the reasons that airplane crash don't have anything to do with some elaborate, complicated system. What it really has to do with is a means of communication. So much so, Korean Air several years ago adopted the idea that all of the communication in a cockpit is going to be in English. And even though you might be next to a Korean pilot and he speaks Korean and you speak Korean, if you are talking about something that's going on outside or something that's coming on over the radio, you better be speaking English, because English has some characteristics that other languages do not have. They did a study, a guy named Hofstadter, they did a study, and they were examining several facets of language. There's something they have called mitigated speech. That's mitigated speech. That's your tendency to modify what you are saying based on the situation. They also have a component where some language is the job, the responsibility of the sender of the communication to make sure that the receiver understands. And yet other places, it is the receiver of the communication that has to make sure that they understand. Well, English has some characteristics that differ from other cultures, other countries. For instance, in the cockpit, the captain is the big deal. The captain is the one that's in charge of the aircraft, and all the other people in the cockpit, they got to do what the captain says. In those cases of plane crashes, people in the cockpit had knowledge of something that was wrong, something that didn't go like it was supposed to, and it was their job to tell the captain to bring it to his attention. Well, the captain is not from a country where people use mitigated speech. He's from a country, he's from America. And in America, we don't do much mitigating speech. To give you an idea of what a mitigating speech is, if you wanted your boss to do something for you, you might not say, "Hey, Carla, could you get this done for me?" You might say something like, "Hey, Carla, if you have time, it might be nice if you did this for me." And that's one way to do it. Or you might say to someone that the example I used earlier about being fat, mitigated speech might say to someone, "Are you a little pleasingly plump, or are you a little overweight?" But the message is not going to get clear if you want the person to know that they're fat. In this study that Malcolm Gladwell did, they found out that in Korea, there are at least 6 levels of communication, starting from formal communication, informal communication, all the way down to familiar. Can you imagine in our language trying to find the 6 different levels of communication? He used the New York air traffic controllers as an example, because one crash that they had, the pilot was telling his first officer, "Let them know we're low on fuel." Well, the first officer was from a country where they did a lot of mitigating speech. So rather than tell the air traffic controller that he was out of fuel and he needed to land right now, he told him something different and just finished his conversation with, "Oh, by the way, we're low on fuel." Well, that doesn't mean anything to an air traffic controller. But something as simple as that led to this airplane crashing. So of all the other things that could have gone wrong, it was language. It was communicating one person to the other, one person mitigating when they didn't need to mitigate, that happened. And this happened over and over and over. So much so that Korean Airlines had to ground all their pilots until they started doing studies to try to figure out, well, what's going on? Why are planes falling out the sky? So English, in my belief, is superior because of the absence of this mitigating speech. Now, this mitigating speech tendency occurs based on something that Malcolm Gladwell calls power distance index. Power distance index is something that occurs based on the country, on our culture, and on how we are. If you were in some countries, you would have an abiding respect for authority, right? In America, not so much. Yeah, I mean, in certain countries, they offer up food, drinks, and other amenities to the captain just because he is the captain. In America, it's not so much like that. Now, in the airline industry, where you got a variety of different nationalities, they have to find some way to standardize things. Because if they don't find some way to standardize things, this communication problem is just going to grow, and it's going to depend on what the nationality of the person is in the cockpit. So as a result of what I just told you right now, the language, the international language of aviation is English. So if you fly in a plane anywhere in the world, the air traffic controller going to speak to you in English. If you're in the cockpit anywhere in the world, you, the first officer, and the co-pilot are all going to be speaking English. And I don't think that that's true, that occurs by accident. And I think it occurs largely because the English speakers' tendency to be more direct, to be more specific about what they want, and to tell you exactly what they're thinking rather than being concerned about how you feel about it. He talked about the New York air traffic controllers and he calls them rude, but he says that they're very good. They're very good. He told a story in the book about one pilot. The air traffic controller got mad at him and just told, look, don't do anything. You just stay there. Don't bother me. I'll be right back. Right now, this guy is in an airplane full of people getting ready to go somewhere, getting ready to land or something, and fortunately for them, this guy was an American. So he waited about 10 seconds and he said to this woman, he says, "Madam, was I married to you in the former life?" Because she didn't make any difference to her who he was. And it didn't make any difference to him who she was. He needed to land the plane and she was going to have him land the plane right then and there. And it's very serious. It's a very complicated situation. But believe me, there are even more situations involving language that can be just as critical.
Now, how can we tie this into technology and using technology with language?
There are many programs where you can learn English during the course of the day. The idea of spaced repetition allows you to listen to English lessons all the time. When you're driving your car, when you're sitting home, whenever you have a moment to connect with an earpiece, you can use that to perfect your English skills. Even learning about English, what I just told you about the book, Malcolm Gladwell, one of the best ways that you can improve your English is by listening to English speakers or watching English movies or listening to books on Audible. Audible is a technology that I find exceptional, and I listen to Audible probably every day of my life. I spend a lot of time driving during the day, and technology can help you with that. Also, if you want to read your lessons by Kindle, you can do that with technology as well. And certainly embrace the idea of technology. Technology is our friend, and the only people who have difficulty with technology are the people that do not expect to have good outcomes. You have to train yourself to expect good outcomes, and as you train yourself to expect good outcomes will chase you down.
So, and I agree with you, in using technology, can we use it to change our mindset too?
Oh, by all means. By all means, this idea of spaced repetition. You know, you can listen to something over and over and over. And here's what's up, right? when you listen to something over and over, say you listen to something the first time, you hear some things, and typically when you're listening to something, you're listening for a bit, and when something catches your ear, you're thinking about it, right? You're thinking about what you just heard. And while you're thinking about what you heard, you're also missing the next thing that's being said after you started thinking about what's being heard, right? So you listen to it again. Well, when you listen to it again, the thing that stopped you the first time, you're not going to stop to try to absorb that because you already got that, you already embraced that. Now you're going to pick up on something else that you didn't get the first time. So technology will give you the same data over and over and over. And because it gives you the same data over and over, you pick up something new each time you listen to the piece.
So knowing that and bringing everything together, how do you use technology to improve your English skills? I know you're an American speaker, but if you were talking to someone from India or Pakistan, how would you use technology to make yourself understood better?
Well, first of all, I'd read more. I'd pick up something and I'd read, right? I'd fall in love with reading. And then I would record myself reading it. And then I would listen to myself reading it. And then I would take technology, I put something about technology called DV prompter. I would take what I'm reading, what I'm listening to, and I would transcribe it into words, into typewritten words, right? And then as I transcribe it into typewritten word, I would go on the internet to this site called DV Prompter, and I would put the words up in the front of me on my cell phone and create a sort of a teleprompter. This teleprompter, I would videotape put the camera in front of me, right? And as I'm reading into the teleprompter, reading the words that I just read, the words that I just listened to, as I'm reading into the teleprompter and recording myself on video, and then later I would look at that video and I would get a feel for how I'm communicating, because I would be looking at me and I would be seeing me just like the other people who are not me that sees me. So I would combine reading more regularly. I would transcribe what I read into text, and then I would create that text into a teleprompter document. And then I would videotape myself looking at this teleprompter, reading it, and then examine it and grade myself over and over again.
Have you done that at all?
Well, yes, I've done it quite a bit, because when you are speaking, when you are videotaping yourself, I got a podcast channel, I got a YouTube channel. One of the things that used to get in my way is flowing the subject from one subject to the other. Now, no matter how good you are, if you talk an awful lot, sooner or later, you're going to find yourself drawing a blank with what the next thing is that you want to talk about. So the only way to avoid that is practice. So you take a teleprompter, you do the situation I just described to you, and you practice doing it over and over. And depending on how serious you are, you want to devote that time and that energy. And then when it comes time to actually have a conversation like I'm having with you now. Right now, I'm not using a teleprompter. I'm speaking directly to you. But before speaking to you, I've used the teleprompter, so I got a pretty good idea as to what the topics I'm talking about, as to how they're going to flow, how they should flow.
So have you ever used a teleprompter?
I have used a teleprompter in the past. I use teleprompters. I use them pretty regularly. Every now and then I talk about politics. And when I talk about politics, I use a teleprompter. Because when I talk about politics, I want to get specific points across. And one way to do that is to use a teleprompter. Now, the teleprompters, in some people's guesstimation, it takes away from the spontaneity of the delivery. Well, as you practice more and more and more, you will lose no spontaneity. Because when you are not being spontaneous, or when you are reading something, the people that you're talking to, they don't really connect with you because you are reading and you are simply concentrating on reading. But once you have done it for quite a number of months or years, then the teleprompter is just there to kind of keep you on track for what you want to say. Because the more you practice, the better you will get at getting the benefits of a teleprompter.
And are there any other ways that you use technology to teach English or teach and help people understand your speaking of English?
It negates the problem about finding the time to meet with people, because anything that I can do on this computer, anything I can do with the camera, I could do it with someone 10,000 miles away. And by speaking to someone 10,000 miles away who have the desire to speak better English, I can do it that way. I can enhance their English. And of course, I can enhance my ability to communicate with them using this computer and using this video, using this video genre.
Now, I have been told that you are mentoring someone in Toastmasters on using technology. Can you explain what you're doing?
Some of the things that I just told you, I'm sharing it with them. And as they deliver their speeches to me, I look at the speeches and I give them a rating on what their speech is and how effective they are doing what it is that they're supposed to be doing. I mentor several people, and the people that I mentor, they look at my videos and they try to duplicate some of the characteristics that I have. But the point in using technology is to develop the confidence in it, and you do it over and over. It's not complicated to do. It's only complicated to believe that technology can put you where you want to be at. I have several Toastmasters. Fortunately, all of them speak English. I don't have any Toastmasters that do not speak English. And so 90% of the job is done because they do speak English. And spaced repetition really is the key to change. So no matter how well their English proficiency is right now, practicing the English proficiency over and over and over will improve over time. There's no magic bullet or magic pill that a person can do to shortcut the acquisition of English as a preferred method of communication. You have to do it slowly and methodically using spaced repetition.
What are the best ways using technology that can help someone learn English?
I think the way that I've mentioned, you record your voice and you listen to other people speaking English on a consistent basis, on a continual basis.
And I think that's a good use.
And of course, join the Toastmasters Club. No matter if you know any English at all, you join the Toastmasters Club, and over a period of time, in instituting spaced repetition, you will improve. Because the mission of a Toastmasters Club, in addition to all the other things that it does, it provides a mutually supportive and a positive learning environment where every member is given the opportunity to develop communication and leadership skills, which in turn fosters self-confidence and personal growth. And embarking on a Toastmaster career and continually repeating things to yourself over and over, that's the number one way to improve your English. That's the best benefit you can get out of technology. And there's really no way around it. There's no shortcuts. You just simply have to do it and develop the confidence that you're going to get to where you're aiming.
And I love that. Do you have any last words of wisdom for our audience?
Concerning communication, it is worth whatever it takes you to communicate better, and I think that using the English language is one way to do that. You must sell yourself on the fact that you can do this, and you must sell yourself on the fact that you will get to where you want to go. From time to time, you may find yourself stuck, or you may find yourself stagnant or not moving forward. That is to be expected. So don't worry about that at all, because I wasn't born, I guess I was born speaking English, but I wasn't born speaking English as well as I do now. In fact, when I was a boy, I used to read the dictionary. So commit to getting better every day. One of the things I say when people ask me how I'm doing, I always tell them the very same thing. I'm better than I was and not as good as I'm going to be. You get that going in your mind. You repeat that over and over and over. And every day, you're going to get better at utilizing English as your preferred method of communicating with other people.
And I want to thank you. This has been a very nice conversation. How do you feel about it?
I must admit, Carla, that anytime I get to open what I call my pie hole, that's a that's a good time. That is
In other words, anytime you get to talk, you have a good time.
Yes, I do. And, my poor wife, she lives with us 24 hours per day.
7 days a week.
365 days per year. That's right.
And how long have you been married?
This August 8th will be 29 years.
Well, she must love hearing your mouth.
Well, she loves hearing it most of the time. But like I said, a guy like me that talks as much as I do, that loves talking as much as I do, well, the only person that truly in love with your voice is me. Fortunately, she loves me, so she listens to my voice the majority of the time.
I won't go any further, deeper into this.
Oh, okay.
But thank you so much, Victor. It's always a joy to talk to you.
Thank you. I look forward to the next interaction.
Well, the next interaction will be at the conference. You will be one of the speakers talking about language and communication and how important it is to speak in English and how
That's
you
right.
use technology to make it work even better.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate you coming. And after having said that, I want to remind everyone that this show was sponsored by the Institute of Peace, which is an online organization promoting peace, one conversation at a time. And we all know if we talk to each other, then we are going to be beginning to understand each other, and the fears and stereotypes begin to drop away. Victor, can you wave goodbye with me? And we're going to end the show. Thank you so very much. And we are saying goodbye. Thank you, people.
Bye-bye.